This is Leadership is Calling, a podcast that brings you leadership and business tips anchored in the people part. I'm Hyman Pratt, CEO and founder of Leading Edge Teams. Hi, everyone. I'm Hyman Pratt, and you are listening to the podcast Leadership is Calling. I'm excited to have you here today because we are going to talk about the journey from A to V. And what I mean by that is the journey from where you are now, at point A, to achieving your business vision state, which is where you want to go, kind of who and what you want to be when you grow up. So for a vision state, most people think about the first part of it in a similar way, in that your goals, your vision state contains your goals, the things that you want to achieve, the things that are specific and like true when you've reached your V state. Okay, so those are things like your level of revenue. Those are things like your profits, could be the amount of people you have in your programs. It could be the type of products you have and their impact in supporting people in the world. Other goals are things like your reputation in the market, right? So those are all very specific goals, things that we want to be able to define ahead of time, and we know when we've achieved them. All right, so most people are pretty good with that part of what's in your vision state, what's in your goals. Okay. But there's a whole second part of your vision state, and that is all about how you operate when you're there. And what I mean by that is, as you grow and develop in business, and you become better and better at what you do, your level of operating expertise, your skill level, your, the development of your people, your level of training, the type of systems and processes you have, your infrastructure, your ability to handle change, right? All of that kind of stuff, how you operate has to get better and better. And I think it's easiest to think of this a lot like sports. I know I say that pretty often, but it's still true. And that is sports, or in this case, it could be like any kind of talent. It could be music. I'll make a music example quickly here. So it's if your goal in music is to be in a professional level orchestra, right? Professional level, meaning an orchestra that plays in the top venues in the United States. Okay, if you want to be in one of those orchestras, okay, not only do you have to be able to play a complicated piece at peak level, right? That it comes out great, okay, but you have to have practiced so much in your life, and you have to be able to operate at a level where you could handle it if somebody does a wrong note, or somebody doesn't set you up properly, or something goes not quite right during the performance. To get to that level, to have your music turn out, beautiful and meet customer expectations, there's so many things you will have had to have learned and developed by then that you no longer have to think about it, that you're not trying to learn the piece of music right before you get on stage. That's not okay, right? It's not like you are still working on a few notes that are kind of difficult. Like, you have to be past all that. And all of you together have to have the kind of teamwork in this orchestra that you can anticipate what each other's going to do. You know how each other needs to be set up and needs to operate to have a great piece. Okay, makes sense? Okay. So there is something with that that I think in business gets lost or gets kind of misunderstood. And that is all about the operating excellence, kind of like, how much do we really need to improve when we go from A to V so that we can achieve our goals? It's like, how much do we need to improve? What the heck does that really mean? Because in music or sports, it seems more obvious. It's like in in music, it's you're going to miss notes way less. Each time you move up a level, your conductor is going to hear way fewer missed notes. If you're a basketball player, by the time you get to the professional level, you're going to make most of your passes. You're not going to miss barely any compared to the high schoolers who may still mess up a lot of passes. So how that relates to business is that there are things, all kinds of ways that we operate together in relationship that have to improve as we go along. Okay, so many things. Okay, so let me give an example. In the early stages of a business, especially for companies that have started fairly recently, that are kind of small, okay, your team meetings don't have to be formal. In fact, team meetings can just be like calling your one other person on the phone and talking about an issue. In fact, you might not even have anything called a meeting between people internally, because you're just working together. And there's so few of you, and if you're the entrepreneur especially, you know what you're going to do in your head, and you're going to do it. It's not like you're going to assign it to somebody else in the early days. In the early days, you're going to do it. So guess what? You don't have to be good at delegation. You don't have to be good at communicating your vision. You don't have to be great at setting up a meeting or operating a meeting, because you won't have many. It's like it's not a thing in the early days. Okay, but as you grow and as you grow and get better and better at what you do and what you deliver, suddenly meetings and how people run meetings, how people show up in meetings, what gets accomplished in meetings, that is going to become important. Because at some point, the early game of telephone, of where you could just call somebody, and there's not that many people who have to know a certain piece of information. It's like, most people are doing a very broad range of things. As you grow, people are doing more narrow specialty, and they have to coordinate now handoffs. They have to know how their part impacts other parts. And in a meeting, in business meetings, that is where a lot of that kind of thing happens. It's where people get to talk about the things they have coming up that may impact everybody else in the meeting. It's where you get to do problem solving with separate perspectives coming together, where in the early days, you had all the perspectives. There was no perspective, barely any perspectives other than yours. But as you grow, suddenly team meetings become a really important thing. And if in the early days of a company, you were like, I hate meetings, and in fact, I try to get out of the most meetings that I can, in the early days, it's not that big a deal, frankly. Probably won't even have that many meetings. If somebody needs you or needs you to know a piece of information, they're going to find you. But later on, you have to participate in meetings. You actually have to show up in a way where you're doing your part in meetings, where you prepare ahead of time, where you know that this meeting is meant to accomplish something. It's like a strategy meeting or a practice game before you play a real game. You can't skip that. You can't always just wing it. When you start to get to be more professional, when you start to, be better and better at what you achieve. And So meetings are a classic thing of, if you're a person who isn't good at participating in meetings, isn't good at getting there on time, isn't good at preparing in advance, isn't good at interacting with others, keeping yourself calm, talking about challenges in a way that lets everybody participate. That doesn't get triggered and rolls your eyes or gets all huffy or something in the meeting. Like all of those things are poor operating, operating excellence. That's poor. We need you to be great at how you participate in meetings, because that's going to be an important part of how you actually achieve your goals. I hope that makes sense. Another one that I see very often for businesses, kind of younger businesses, and like a hard obstacle to overcome, or a hard thing to put in place, I should say. Another thing that I see is planning ahead, advanced planning. Okay, so in the early days of a business, entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs are some of the least advanced planners. Okay, they have ideas. They're action people. They are ready to just be in action. And they love to figure things out on the fly. Love it. Okay. I like some of that too, a bunch of times. Okay. However, when there's just you can plan things at the last minute. You're the only one that's going to do them. But as you grow and you work with a bigger team, a team that has different parts of the whole that they're holding down, that they're putting together, a team that has not only one project that they're working on, but may have 5 projects that they're working on all at the same time. They have to coordinate all of it together. At that point, you have to plan in advance. You have to plan in advance. You don't have, if you don't plan in advance, all you get is crisis and chaos. Because if you don't plan in advance, other people can't anticipate what you need or what the project needs. That means they can't plan in advance. That means they can't figure out in their schedule what they need to allocate to, their time to this and to that. And so we have to get everybody much better at planning in advance at some point. And when you have people who can't, for whatever reason, even after training, even after support, they're just not built for advanced planning. It's just, it's so outside of their skill set, outside of their competency. There's going to be a time when they can't stay in a role that needs advanced planning. They can't, because that one person, by not planning in advance, will mess up the entire team. Because we have to have a level of operating excellence that includes planning in advance. The better you get at delivering, at making changes and pivots, etc., you need to plan a lot of things in advance, so that, weirdly enough, so that when last minute stuff comes up, it doesn't upset everything. It's like you can kind of isolate the damage. It's like, oh no, like in the pandemic, right? It's like you have a lot of things planned, and then the pandemic happens, and you're like, oh no, we can't do live events this year. We're going to have to change that to virtual events. Okay, great. But the good news is we don't have to change all the digital products. Those pretty much stay the same. But if we had planned nothing in advance, we'd just be in absolute chaos. And when something changed, it would just create even more. So this is one of those things that we need to start being really aware of when we are growing our business, when we are getting better at what we do. It's not only about the goal achievement. It's about how we're operating to achieve those goals. And that level of excellence needs to go up, keep going up. Another way we say it, I think that's helpful, is as you get better and better at what you do, the range of acceptable behaviors narrows. Meaning that if you would opt out of team meetings anytime you got a chance, if you just could not plan in advance, at some point, that's, you have to. It's like the range of acceptable behaviors includes that. You can't opt out of that part, right? You can't do it a whole different way. You can't say, you know what, I'm not that great at planning in advance, but I am really good at, talking to people at the last minute and making a checklist. It's like, you can't make your own system at the last minute. So we need you to be, really staying in tune with and understanding that your next step forward as you develop, you have to get better and better at what you do. You can't just stay where you are. And the biggest reason for that is because things change in the world. Like expectations go up. Even if you signed up for a certain role, doing a certain tasks and had certain responsibilities that you could do it at a certain level of expertise of operating excellence. Okay. Even if you start there, the thing is that all the expectations around you are going to go up. The first expectation that goes up usually is of your customers, of your clients. Who has customers that are like, you know what, this thing that I got from you this year, it was too good. I'd like it to be worse next time. That doesn't happen. Your customers are always like, this has to be better. I want it to be better, and I want it to be cheaper. And I want it right now. So as the team and the leaders inside the company, the natural state of things is that expectations keep going up. You do have to keep getting better at what you do, because the whole world is going to keep getting better. Otherwise, you will just literally be left behind. You won't be able to, keep up with your clients' expectations. You won't be able to retain team because they have expectations of being successful. In fact, your A+ team members, they want to be on a team that continuously gets better and better and better. Your A+ players have to achieve results. They have to create value. Otherwise, it's too painful for them to stay somewhere. They can't play a losing game for very long. And I think that probably brings me to the last thing that I wanted to share about this A to V journey. And that is that in this A to V journey, a big part of it, I've been talking about operational excellence that has to get better and better. Okay, true. But the other thing that has to get better and better is how you do this operational excellence, how you operate while under increasing stress, pressure, challenge, and change. Because the path from A to V, the path from going where you are now to achieving an ambitious set of goals, or even a reasonable set of goals, it has challenges. If it was super easy, everybody would do it. It's just not. And so the more ambitious you are, the more challenges you should expect, even with getting better and better at how you operate. It's it's not possible to want to achieve a big set of goals and figure out how to guarantee that it will all go super well, that you won't have challenges. That it's not the way it works. I haven't worked with any company ever that was challenge free. And frankly, the more ambitious they were, the more challenges they had. And that makes sense. So part of the operating excellence is not just things like that we do team meetings really well, and we plan in advance really well, and we coordinate great, and we use this really fancy project management system that keeps everything running on time. Okay, all that's great. Okay. But at the same time, while you're doing that, we also need teams to become better and better at handling the unexpected, meaning that they can still show up well. They can keep their thinking brains engaged when things get even more challenging, more stressful, like a pandemic, right? That was stressful for everybody. Other kinds of stressors are when, most everybody now either sells online or has an online component of their business or markets online. And that technology changes every 5 seconds. It's like, what if you ever thought you could rely on Google or Facebook to, to be all steady and not change anything, or to check with you first? That's not going to happen. So you have to be able to work with the unexpected things, the mistakes that happen, the increasing pressure. You have to be able to work with that too. That's a big part of operating excellence. It's like we have to be, it's one of the words these days, anti-fragile, right? We can't be fragile that we fall apart once things don't go as expected. That's a huge part of operational excellence. And it's the only way you're going to get from A to V, is not only getting better and better at what you do, but getting better and better at handling the challenges along the way. And that's what I wanted to share with you for today's Leadership is Calling podcast. See you guys next time. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Leadership is Calling. To learn more about this episode's topic, pick up a copy of my book, The People Part, at your favorite book retailer or at anniehymanpratt.com. Want to learn more about how to uplevel your leadership skills and create a collaborative team that helps you drive results? Go to leadingedgeteams.com/schedule to learn more about working with us and to schedule a call.